Bum 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 ba da 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 yai da 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 bum bum. Okay, we're gonna start in a moment. The chitas of the day. Today's chumash is a little bit long. Today's chumash is fascinating part of the story of Joseph and his brothers. I'm going to start in a moment. Good morning. Okay, good morning. We're going to start with the Chumash. Today is Wednesday. So it's a Revi in the Parshas Vayeshev, chapter 38, verse number 1. It would now came that time. Vayered Yehuda me'es Echav. And Yehuda was demoted. Vayered, he went down from his brothers. Vayet, and he went away. Turned away from his family. Ad Ish Adulami. He went to, came to the man that's called Adulami, Ushmai Chira. I mean, who lived in Adulami. The Adulami man, whose name was Chira. Suddenly we go from the story of Joseph to the story of Yehuda. What is this section placed here? It interrupts the section dealing with Joseph. So Rashi says it's to teach us that Yehuda's brothers demoted him from his high position. When they saw that the father was distressed, they said to him, "You just told us to sell him. Had you told us to return him, we would have obeyed you." And so he turned away from his brothers. Yehuda went away. Ad Ishel, he entered a partnership with him. He went and found a friend, another friend. Verse number 2. Yasham Yehuda, and Yehuda saw the Bas Ish Kanani. He saw the daughter of a Kanani, Ushmai Shua, whose name was Shua. He took his daughter, and he married her. Kanani Tagra. Kanani over here means a Tagra, a merchant. Uncle is translated as a merchant. Verse number 3. Vatar, and she got pregnant. Vatela Ben, and she had a son. Vayikra Shmei Er, and he called her, and he called her Er. Vatar, she got pregnant again. Vatela Ben, and she had another son. Vatikra Shmei Oinon, and they called him Oinon. Vatesav Oid, verse 5. Vatesav Vatela Ben, and she had another son. Vatikra Shmei Shelah, she called him Shelah. He Bechziv, and she was in Chziv when he gave birth to her. So Rashi says, first of all, Chziv is the name of a place. I say, however, that it was called Chziv because she stopped having children. An expression similar we find in Jeremiah. You're going to be like an azil. You'll be separate from me, and we find it in different places. The word chsiv means that stopped, it came to an end. Okay, verse number 6. Yikach Yehuda Isha le'ed. As his children grew up, Yehuda took a woman for his son Ed b'cher ushma Tamar, and her name was Tamar. And Er, the son of Yehuda, was a bad person in the eyes of God. And he died young. Now she says, what was the evil? His evil was like the evil of Einan, that he wasted his semen. As it's written in the connection with Einan, the next one. And he put him to death also, meaning that at Er's death, so was Einan's death. Now, why would Er waste his seed? So that Tamar would not become pregnant. He didn't want to impregnate her because he wanted her to stay. She was this beautiful woman. He didn't want her to get pregnant. He wanted her to stay in her beauty. So Yehuda didn't know that his son was so evil. And Yehuda told Einan, his next son, you go come to your brother's wife, and perform the Levirate mitzvah. V'hakem zera lachicha, and raise progeny for your brother. Your brother will have an existence. How the son is called on the name of the deceased. That's where the custom comes. That to give the name of somebody who passed away, your grandfather, grandmother, you continue the name. So if a brother marries, this is the law of a Levirate law. If a brother marries, a brother passes away, the next brother should marry the young lady and continue the name of the family, of the brother. Verse number 9. So Onan felt, what do you mean? I'm giving my brother seed. What am I? I'm a donor. Therefore, he was not too nice person either. Whenever he had a relationship with his Tamar, he would not give any seed, and he would actually take it, would spill it on the ground. The Vilti Nasa Zella, because he didn't want to give a name to his brother. So he practiced inside and whatever. Didn't let the seed go in her. Verse number 10. Hashem, and God got angry. Asher also at what he did. Vayamas gam oisai, and he Onan that passed away. Now again, Yehuda didn't know that his sons were so wicked. Vayemer Yehuda. So Yehuda said to Tamar. Yehuda said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, Shvi al Manasseh, remain as a widow in your father's house. Ad yigdal Shleila, until Sheila will grow up. Bini. Because he said, at least he died too, like his brothers. Vatelech Tamar vatesha beis avia. So Tamar went and she remained in her father's house. He meaning he dismissed her with straw. This is a lame excuse. What do you mean? Because really he had no idea. He decided that she's not going to marry him. But he came up with some kind of Baba Maisa. Let him wait till he gets older. Because he was afraid. Yehuda was afraid. Mechuzek is this woman whose husband presumably died young. It seems like Tamar is killing off her husbands, the black widow. And he didn't want that. So he didn't allow her to marry her. He sent her to her father's house. By Yomim, the days went on. Thomas Bashua Eshes Judah. Shua lost his wife. And Yehuda was consoled. He was depressed, and and he went up over his sheep shears. He and Chira, his best friend, his diamond friend, and he went to Timnah. So Rashi says he went to Timnah to stand over the sheep shearers, to oversee them. Verse number 13. By you got the Tamar, and was told to Tamar, what? Lamer saying, behold, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah. Somebody told her, your father's going up to Timnah. To shear his sheep. So here Rashi says, in connection to Samson, however, the scripture says, and Samson went down to Timnah. And therefore Rashi says it was situated on a mountain slope, so that you would go up if it was from here, and you go down if it was from there. That's a Gemara in Sota. We learned this last night, that the Gemara gives 3 different explanations to the word Oila Tumnasa. They went up to Timnah. And now she accepts the third interpretation of that Gemara, that it means that it was on a slope. If you're going from the bottom, you're going up. If you're going from the top, you're going down. Verse number 14. But this big down Manasseh. So she took off her widow's garb. Me'alef on her. And she covered herself with a veil. And she sat down. She sat down at the crossroads, which was on the way to Timnah. Because she knew that Sheila has grown up already, and he's not allowing her to be married to him. So now she said, she covered her face that he wouldn't recognize her. At the opening of the eyes at the crossroads on the road to Timnah, our sage, however, explained it, midrashing to mean at the entrance to the residence of her father Abraham, which all eyes looked forward to see. She sat at near his tent, because everybody, wherever they traveled, would come to Abraham's tent, even though he passed away, but he was a famous tent. It was a tourist attraction, and she knew that Yehuda would come to that tourist attraction. Of course, he saw that Sheilah is going up, so Rashi says, therefore she made herself available to Judah, for she longed to bear sons for him. She did it not because she was interested in anything, but she wanted to be part of the Jewish nation and have children with the Jewish people. Verse 15. Yehuda, and Yehuda saw her. He thought she was a harlot. He kissed her because she covered her face. So that's because she was sitting on the crossroads. Why was this lady sitting on the crossroads? I was a Zainab, I was a harlot. And she could not see her and recognize her. Our sages and Midrashic interpreted because she had covered her face when she stayed in her father's house, and she was modest. Therefore, he did not suspect her. Tamar was extremely modest and a very righteous woman. Verse 16. So he turned aside to her. He said, get ready now. I'll come to you. You're a harlot. I'm going to come to you. He didn't know it was his daughter-in-law. It was a harlot. He said, what are you going to give me? What's going to be my payment? So Rashi says, he turned aside towards the road. From the road he was following, he turned aside to the road where she was. Pashut, it's divine providence, this whole story a whole lot. And he had a desire to turn a different road. So Rashi, prepare yourself and your mind for this. Every expression of hava signifies preparation, except when it's translated as an expression of giving. And even those instances, the word hava meaning preparation are close to the expression of giving. Verse 17. He said, okay, I'll pay you. I'll send you a kid from the herd. He said, okay, I'll do this, but you have to give me a collateral. Pledge. You have to give me some collateral. Mashkin, Rashi says, collateral, security. Verse 18. He said, what's the collateral? What's the pledge? Your signet ring. Silcha, your cloak. And the staff that's in your hand. You give me these three. When you send me the gedi, when you send me the goat, I'll give it back to you. He gave it to her. But they had relationships. And she got pregnant. Now she says, your ring, which your seal, your cloak, which you covered yourself. Okay. But and she could see by him, mighty men like him, righteous men like him. So Tarloi, she got pregnant to him. Verse 19. Talk about Taylor, she went home. She took off her veil, but she put back her widow's garb. Put back on her widow's garb. Verse 20. Yudah sent the goat, you gotta pay. His friend, to take his collateral back. He couldn't find her. Verse 21. He asked the people of the place, where is the harlot? Where's the harlot on the crossroad? You know what you're talking about. There was no woman like that on the crossroad. Now, Kadesha means muzumenes, prepared. Kadesha, that's the interesting thing. Harlot, Kadesha, comes to the same word as Kadesh, which is holy. Mekudeshes, which means is separated. Hareyat Mekudeshes, you are consecrated to me. So this is a person that is separated for the opposite, for znus, for modesty. Verse 22. Yashav el Yehuda, and he came back to Judah. I couldn't find her. And also the people of the city are saying, the place, there's no harlot there. Let it take them for herself. Lisa will become a laughing stock. Because if I'm going to continue to do this search, people are going to say, like, whoa, Yehudi, you slept with a harlot. What's going on over here? I sent it, and you can't find it. So Rashi says, let her keep what she has, because if we seek further, the matter will be known, become a disgrace. For more I require to keep my word, it's going to come. I'll become a disgrace to the people of the city. Rashi says next week, behold, I sent this kid. Since Yehuda had deceived his father with the kid in the blood, he immersed his Joseph coat. He too was deceived with a goat. That's where you learn karma. Midah keneged midah. The Eibusha should punish a person exactly with the negative that he done himself. Verse 24. About 3 months. Suddenly Yehuda was told, they told her that your daughter-in-law had a prohibited relation. She is pregnant from Harut. She's pregnant. How did Tamar get pregnant? She's an almana. She's not married to anybody. She has to be married to Yehuda's son, and now she's pregnant. How does she have a child? Yehuda said, take her out, punish her. It'll be burned. So Rashi says, the greater part of the first, the greater part of the third, and the complete middle one. Expression chadashim, k'v'sholosh chadashim means upon the tripling of months, like the sending of the port mishalach manes. They would stretch forth their hand, mishloach yadayim, the stretching forth of their hand, and so did Onkelos translate it like a tripling of months. Mishalosh chadashim not mean 3 months, because then it would be basically first 3 months. So that's like a misholosh chadashim means like in 3 months. 3 is like 9 months. Shame the harash. This is an adjective. Pregnant, like a pregnant hara woman. But Tisraif, so Rashi says Ephraim Miksha. Ephraim Miksha said, Meshum Rameir, name Rameir, Bita Shel Shem Isa, that Tamar was the daughter of Shem, Shu Koyin, who was a priest. Leficha Don B'Sev. This later in the Torah says that if a Bas Koyin has a prohibited relationship, her in marriage, her punishment is by death, is by fire, is by hatled. That's fire in the Torah. That's fire. That's what fire means. But so therefore, since she was a Bas Koyin, she was a daughter of Shem, who was a Koyin at that time. He said she needs to be punished by death, by burning. So what did she do? Verse 25. He might says he shalcha chamia. So she was taken out, and she sent to her father-in-law saying, to the man who these belong, the signet ring, please recognize whose signet ring is this, whose cloak is this, and whose staff is this. So Rashi says, first was taken out to be burnt, and she sent to her father. She did not want to embarrass him and say, from you I'm pregnant, but from the man who these belong. She said, if he confesses by himself, let him confess. If not, let them burn me. But I will not embarrass him. Amazing. From this, the rabbis say, it's better for a person to cast into fiery furnace than to embarrass his fellow in public. Wow. Oh, okay. She was ready to go on Mesiras Nefesh, not to embarrass her father-in-law. Hakana, ein la eloshe bakosha. No is an expression of supplication. Please recognize your creator and do not destroy these 3 souls. It's later. It's a Gemara. Yehuda, verse 26, and Yehuda recognized it. He could have said, quiet. He says, she is right. She's right. She's expression. She's more righteous than me. I didn't write because I did not give her my son Shelah. But he no longer continued to intimate with her. So she was righteous in her word. Many It's from me. I would say, however, explain the Midrashic to mean that a Bathkol came forth and declared, from me and from within me, these matters have emerged. See, Mimeni is the expression God says, it's from everything happens from me. I'm the one who runs the world. I'm the one. Here, Yehuda, you sent her away, but I run the world. I'm the one who brings about all these situations that you were thrown away and you're going on the way and your sons, you have 3 sons. All this, I've planned this whole thing out. It's all from me. Since she was a modest in her father's house, I decreed that kings should descend from her. You try to push her away, I'm going to make sure what's going to happen will happen. And from the tribe of Judah, already decreed to raise up kings of Israel. So you try to push her away, and she was modest. I'm going to make sure that the offsprings of Judah is going to come from this woman. I didn't give her my son Shelah she did this justifiably because I did not give her my son Shelah. So I was the villain. Yehuda is doing tshuva. The Yosef, some say he did not continue to know her. The others say he did not cease to know her. Similar senses is found in the connection of Eldad and Moedad with the expression of Lo Yasufu, they did not continue, which means actually Lo Posku, they did not cease. So he not only didn't condemn her, he married her, and they became a family. Verse 27. He basically, when she gave birth, and she had twins. Rashi says, by Rebecca, it says, by Yimoli Yemela Ledas. The latter instance, the months were complete, but here they were in short term. She had it earlier. V'hine tu'umim, the word tu'umim is a male. There's the vav there. Ulahalon, the aleph there, the halon, and by Rivka, they're missing an aleph. Chasar, it's a missing letter in the word. Echad Rasha, because by Rivka, one of them was wicked. Aval Elu, but the Tamar, both of her children were righteous. Verse 28. When she gave birth, and the infant stretched out his hand, so the midwife took and bound a crimson thread on his hand. Tell her, saying this one came out first. Why? So now she says, one of them stretched out his hand from his mother to the outside, and after the midwife, bound his crimson thread, he went back. When the first guy put out his hand, and he put back his hand, the other one came out. Tamers, he said, why'd you jump out first? Why'd you take? So he called him Peretz. Peretz means to jump forward. Rashi says, Paratzta, with the strength you have strengthened yourself. Chazak ala chazak. Go from strength to strength. That's Peretz. That's the one who's going to come forth great things. Verse 30. And then came out the second one, Zorach, and he called him Zorach. So that says 4 hands are written here, corresponding to the 4 devoted things by which Achan, who was descendant of Zorach, committed trespass. Some say that they correspond to the 4 things he took: a Babylonian garment, 2 pieces of silver weight, and 400 shekel of wedge gold. This is later. So in essence, this is a story that happened later in the time of the kings. That one of the kings did things that he wasn't supposed to do. Vayikra Shmei Zorach, because of the shining appearance, Zrichas, of the crimson, he called him Zorach. And that does the Chumash of the day. We go to the Tanya. We're holding the second. In the first chapter of Tanya, we are continuing in middle of that chapter. So now the Alter Rebbe is talking about what is a Beinoni, what is a middleman. That's what we're holding. The Alter Rebbe is talking about what is a middleman. This is what usually is mentioned, that a middleman is mechza al mechza, that a person has half and half, and that's a middleman. Mikra Beinoni is called a Beinoni. V'roiv zchuyos, a person that has more merits is called a tzaddik, mikra tzaddik. So Rashi says, so the Alter Rebbe says, Hushem hamushal bilvad. It's a borrowed name. It's a figurative name. That is half and half. You're a Beinoni, and if you have more, 51%, you're righteous. And but it is concerning something that is important. This concept that you are judged according to the majority of your merits. That's what it's. So in the majority of your merits, you are a tzaddik. In regard to reward and punishment. Because we are judged according to majority of your deeds. And therefore he's righteous in reference to his verdict, since he's acquitted in trial. So the truth is, when you come to heaven after 120 years, if you're 51% more in righteousness, you're going to go to Gan Eden. You have nothing to worry about. That's why Jews have nothing to worry about, because we have a Amekulam Tzadikim. That's why it says that all Jewish people are righteous people, because we are Malay in mitzvahs kirim, and we are filled with mitzvahs like a pomegranate. So therefore, after 120 years, everybody's going to Gan Eden, because you're majority good. Even though you have some bad, you're majority good, and God judges according to the majority of your deeds. But that's not what the Alter Rebbe wants to talk about. The Alter Rebbe wants to talk about what is the essence of a tzaddik and what is the essence of a Beinoni. But, however, we seek to truly define. We're not interested in the concept of reward and punishment. Alter Rebbe is not talking about Gan Eden or Gehenim. You're not going to find in Tanya much of that. Gan Eden or Gehenim. The Alter Rebbe wants to talk about the concept of righteousness and wickedness in this world. The concept of this world, not reward and punishment. I want to go to the essence and define the distinct meanings of a righteous man and a middleman. What are the distinct differences? So the Alter Rebbe says, what are the distinct differences? Therefore, our sages say, what is the difference between righteous and a middleman and a wicked man? Tzadikim yeitatev shoftam. A tzaddik is motivated by his good nature. Shenema, as King David says, "V'libi chala b'kirbi." My heart is void within me. What does that mean? My heart is void within me. She'ein lo yetzer hara. David said, I ultimately killed my yetzer hara, my evil inclination. I got rid of him. Ki hargu b'tainis. I fasted and I fasted after the story of Bathsheba. I fasted and I fasted and I fasted, and I had no yetzer hara anymore. Can you imagine such a situation? But if you haven't reached up to this level, that you have negated your evil inclination, even though you have unbelievable more good deeds than negative deeds, you're not a tzaddik at all. You have one Aveda, we already mentioned before, you're not a tzaddik. One Aveda, you're not a tzaddik. So therefore, you have to get that clear in the concept. I'm not talking about what the Alter Rebbe says in reward or punishment. I'm talking about what is the concept of a tzaddik and what's the concept of a Beinoni and the concept of a Rasha. And therefore, our sages said, Gemara says that the God saw that there was not going to be too many tzaddikim in the world. Because most people, as the Torah says, they have Yetzer Hara, they can't control the Yetzer Hara. So the Eibishter made sure that there will always be a tzaddik in the world. And it can be one tzaddik, or these all right, 36 tzaddikim, some people 72 tzaddikim, whatever the number is, it's a very small percentage of the Jewish nation. And as he writes, Commercial Kosovo, as the verse says, Tzaddik Yesod Olam. We need one man. There needs to be one tzaddik, one guy, one tzaddik in the world. That's the foundation of the world. So the world always has one tzaddik, or 36 tzaddik in the Starim, hidden righteous people, etc., etc. So therefore, we know that a tzaddik is somebody who never did a sin. And that's why it's very few tzaddikim in the world. So what is the meaning of tzaddikim? That the righteous are judged by their Yetzer Tov, and the wicked are judged by their Yetzer Hara. Alter Rebbe says, however, the explanation of the matter is as follows. According to what Rab Chaim Vital, Chaim Vital again was the prize student, so to say, of the Arizal, one who actually wrote his. Arizal never wrote anything. The Chaim Vital was his main student and wrote most of his teachings of the Arizal. So he wrote in what's called the Shara Kedusha. There were a lot of portraits of which Chaim Vital wrote in different concepts, and wrote in the Shara Kedusha in Beitz Chaim Shar Nun Perek Beis, the portrait 50, chapter 2. Chol Ish Yisrael, every single Jew, Echad Tzadik, ve'echad Rasha, whether he's righteous, whether he's wicked. Here we come to the basis, a very important basis in Tanya and in Chassidus, based on the Arizal. Yesh they neshamas, they have two souls, and it's based in the pasuk which says, "Neshamas ani asisi, souls I have made." It doesn't say neshama in the singular; it says souls. Shehin shtei nefashos, that every single person has two souls. He's comprised of two souls. What are the two souls? Nefesh achas. The first soul is mitzara klipa v'sitra achar. Comes from the klipa. You have to get this word, because this word is a famous word in Kabbalah Chassidus. Klipa. Klipa means a covering. Klipa. Klipa. Chassidus, if you wanted to curse somebody, said you're a klipa. You're a covering, meaning that you're hiding something. Klipa. Klipa means a covering, something that covers, something that hides. Sitra achra is the other side. And this is also another word. This is an Aramaic word. This is brought in Kabbalah, Arizal, Zohar. Klipa, sitra achra. Klipa is a covering. Sitra achra is the other side. The two expressions, as he writes it, these two terms are generally synonymous. Klipa, sitra achra, usually they'll go together. You'll hear these two expressions are together. Klipa and sitra achra. You're a covering, and therefore you're from the other side. Him is a lesher bedam adam, and it is enclosed in the blood of the man. In the blood of man, and goes through the entire body through the blood. As it says, the soul of man, it's a pasuk in the Torah in Genesis, the soul of man is in his blood. And from me, boys called me this rois, and from this nefesh comes all evil characters of man. Ma'abo yesoidim haroyim, from the four elements of nature that's in it. What are the four elements of nature? The four physical elements of fire, air, water, and earth. Fire, air, water, and earth. Kas v'gaiva, anger and pride. You say the Eish comes from the foundation of fire. Shenigvul amalek, fire goes upwards. The taiva, appetite for pleasure, tanugim, pleasures. So the taiva is desire. Tainugim is pleasures. Misaid hamayim comes from the water, foundation of water. Ki hamayim mitzvah kol min tainug. Because water, symbolic, that brings forth all the lights. All the lights. Hoilalus with its honors, fervility and scoffing, bitiforis and boasting, udvarim bitalim and idle talk. V'yisoida ruach comes from the element of air. Like air, they lack substance. Atzus v'atzvus and sloth and melancholy, v'yisoida offer come from the foundation of earth. That is the most relevant foundation of a human being. He's mostly from earth. So everybody has in his elements earth, fire, air, and water. And majority of us may offer tosha. From earth you come, to earth you return. So the most biggest foundation is earth, and also water. We know the water and earth, right? Majority, you need to hydrate yourself. You need a lot of water to keep things going. But the earth is a very, and that's why many of us are depressed, because we are our foundation of earth. And so too, good traits inherited in every Jew, in their Jewish character, as for the example of compassion and benevolence, comes from this soul too. Because this soul is, as he says, can be soul nefesh the klipo imiklipas noiga. Because this soul, the first soul, which is called the animalistic soul, which is called the soul of existence, which gives us life. This soul is also good. It's as a klippa, but the klippa is called a klippat noga. It's a klippa that shines. Why? Because sheyesh beit gam toiv. This is going back to the story of the Garden of Eden, where they ate the tree of knowledge of good and bad. So they now received, every person has within him good and bad. He has an animalistic soul, which is good and bad. This animalistic soul is not evil. He's thus an entity that likes things. He likes life. He wants to live. And therefore, whatever he can get in life, he will get, whether it's good or not so good for him. That's why we might eat things that are not so good for us. And then we want to eat things that are good for us. And we have this backward and forwards, which is the concept of taivus. We have taivus for good and we have taivus for bad. We have a mixture of good and bad. We're not talking here about bad Avedas. Yet, that's a Russia. We're talking about the Nefesh Bahamis. We have an animalistic soul that likes to have good and bad. Not bad that we've done anybody bad. He missaid eight, as the Alter Rebbe writes, this clip is from the esoteric tree of knowledge of good and evil. But the Jewish animalistic soul is different than non-Jewish animalistic soul. Hey, Mishai Klippus Meis, their soul, their second soul comes from the unclean Klippus. Shem Behem Ktev Kla, it has no good. As it's brought down in Eitz Chaim, chapter 49, chapter 3. Whatever the nations is done out of the selfish motive, most people do things out of selfish motive. And Eibishter gave through Avram Avinu a yid, a neshama that has the capability to do out of selfless mode. And the nations do not have the comprehension of doing something out of selflessness. Yisra Gemara, as is brought down in the Gemara, Chesed le'uma chatos, the kindness of the nations is sin. Shakol tzedakah v'chesed she'umas elam oisin. This is a Gemara, it's not the Alter Rebbe. The Gemara says all the charity and kindness done by the nations of the world, Eina el Yisyar, is all for the self-gratification. This was one of the statements of the Alter Rebbe that got him in trouble with the Russian authorities. And the story is told that the Alter Rebbe was asked 42 questions. He answered all 41, and then they asked him this question: what do you mean by this? And he just smiled. He didn't answer. and they understood that just like I could answer all 41, he could have answered this question. What do you mean by this Gemara? Actually, it's a question on the Gemara. What does the Gemara mean? That everything the nations of the world do is for their own glory. What does that mean? Isn't that anti the nations of the world? Aren't you talking against the Tsar? Everything he does is for his own glory. What is the meaning of that statement? And the Alter Rebbe smiled because, in essence, just like I could have answered all the questions, could answer this question. You don't want to hear the answer to the question. In essence, maybe we should leave it as a question. And I'm not going to explain to you why the nation. This was one of the things that the Shimon Yochai, the story of the Romans and the Gemara, where the three sages were talking about, what the Romans have done for Israel. They built these beautiful roads and beautiful colosseums and beautiful buildings. And Rabbi Shimon Yochai said, my friends, whatever they're doing for their own glory. They have you'll go a little against them, they'll destroy you. And it's exactly what happened. And that completes the Tanya of the day. We have finished the first chapter of Tanya. Tomorrow we'll start the second chapter of Tanya. Today, Tehillim of the day is 108, 109, 110, 111, 112. So 108 to 112, and you would have done the Chitas of the day. Have a beautiful day. Everybody's welcome tonight to come at 7:30 to the Secrets of the Bible, which we're going to be talking about the story of the broken tablets. Have a beautiful and wonderful day.
You too, Rabbi. Thank you.
God bless you.